We're getting ready to go here. We're having a pre-paddle meeting right now. We want them in the water tomorrow at 7 a.m. A little bit of anxiety in the air, you can sense it.
Yeah, we want to position the boat in a formation to get that pod of paddlers to stay together.
As soon as they get to us in mass, we're not going to dilly-dally and let the tide take us. We're going to take off.
Hey, Kevin. What's going on?
How are you?
Woo! We are ready.
Give the skis like a 10-minute warning before the break.
Am I supposed to put my name on this?
We're not going to do a lot of chit-chatting on the radio. We just want to keep it to a bare minimum.
Ready as I'll ever be. I'm carbing up right now. Plenty of beverages.
A lot more paddlers than last year. We have more. We had more than twice as many. Yeah. This is our biggest here. They're all going on top.
These are paddle supports.
Tomorrow morning, we're going to have everybody at the lighthouse at the latest 6 a.m. in the morning, and we're trying to get everybody in the water by 7 a.m. If you're here right now by yourself, say to the guy next to you, hey, Jimbo, you're my buddy tomorrow.
We're going to paddle all the way to the end. There's a little estuary. It's going to take us to a place called the Narragansett Inn. They're going to have a whole party for us set up. First thing you do when you get there, just kiss the ground. You made it. Any other questions?
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Need my head examined.
Being raised out here by my Irish grandmother, you know, there was a picture of John Kennedy on the wall right next to Jesus and right next to the Irish flag. And his speech to the Newport Yacht Club in 1963, I believe, where he talked about the water.
Really, I don't know why it is that all of us are so committed to the sea. But all of us have in our veins the exact same percentage of salt in our blood that exists in the ocean. And therefore, we have salt in our blood, in our sweat, in our tears. We are tied to the ocean.
And it just stuck with me since I was 9 years old. The sun comes up, you get out in the water, the sun goes down, you rinse off in the shower house, and you go to bed, and you get up and do it again. I first heard about the Block Island paddle a long, long time ago, and I was like, wow, I don't know if I could ever do that. The first couple of years, it was all prone paddling, and given my shoulders, I couldn't pro paddle that far. It's actually 6 inches longer than my first Boston Whaler. Originally, it was just a bunch of surfers who decided to paddle over and raise some money.
Well, as a bartender, I knew most of the guys that started Paddlers for Humanity. I think it was really Ed that really got this going. He was standing at the lighthouse. It might have even been his wedding day.
My wife was late for the wedding. One of the people at the wedding was a local bayman. We got talking, and there was a perfect view of Block Island, and I asked him how far it was, and said it was 18 miles, and don't try it.
And he decided he was going to cross from Montauk Point to Block Island.
Which we all thought he was crazy, but he did it.
Well, I've known Ed since he first moved out here. In fact, Lucy was there when she was in my tummy.
We were fraternity brothers. I graduated before him. We were in the fitness field.
Ed happened to come to Body Tech.
He came as an intern when I was working at Body Tech here, and he was always doing stuff, always moving forward, he said.
Ed always says relentless forward progression.
During the paddle, I started thinking of a way to kind of translate this into a fundraiser. I looked at this as a lean way of recruiting a lot of paddlers and bringing in a local community that could raise funds for local charities at the time. I think part of it was when my mother was sick. She had cancer, and we had spoken, my brother and sister and I had spoken about doing something a little bit more.
It's evolved into a structured organization with Fred.
I was one of those people who came out to the Hamptons and spent my weekends here. I was also the executive director of a nonprofit in the city called Miracle House. And I got to know Ed Cashin. He was actually, I was training with him. He's a personal trainer. His mother had died of cancer, and Miracle House cared for people who were dealing with illnesses.
10 swings, 4 squats, bird dogs, follow.
I've taken a few of Ed's classes, and I hate Ed.
And we were chatting one day, and he said, I have a fundraising idea for you. He said, my idea is to do a paddle from Montauk to Block Island. And I said, great. Will people do that?
He did it one day on his own and asked me about it. Trainer friend of mine, Dave Lease, he took off.
The first year we did it, none of it was really put together well. At the beach end of Indian Wells, we sat up there. Boat Captain Dan Farnham came down, told us about the swells that were out there expected. They were pretty good. Told us about the fog, and it was foggy. And he told us about the dead whale and the shark.
The Kimberly, of course, with Dan and Sue Farnham, got involved.
Well, the Kimberly, it's a 72-foot longliner that I own. They just hit the dock after a 10-day fishing trip. Today's catch, they hopefully have about 22,000 pounds on, which is a good trip for these days. When the Block Island paddle was done by Miracle House
In 2006,
we were asked to help out as an escort boat.
I was a little bit overwhelmed, I think, when I first got involved with the not-for-profit world, because there were so many charities and there were so many great proposals and things that people wanted to do.
When Ed and Fred got together and took the paddle over and created their own charity.
It's when we formed the board of Paddlers for Humanity that we all had input on what we thought our message would be.
We branched out into focusing on charities that benefit children.
By going around the community and talking with community leaders and school administrators and social workers and parents and like, what's here, what's missing? And we landed on a lack of mental health services for kids.
Anti-bullying efforts, food pantries.
Early intervention to positive behavioral, so all sorts of things.
Our mission is bettering the lives of children, and our true belief is when you build confidence, and that really helps build resiliency and helps make good decisions and helps children to understand what is really important.
And it just snowballed, and more people wanted to become a part of it. Ed Cashin and Tom O'Donoghue approached me and said, come on board with us. You have to do this.
You need leaders. You need people out there like Tom O'Donoghue who's going to get that message across. You need people that understand the story.
I worked with Dan, on the Kimberly for many years. They were the good old days. Building out in the East End, I have been fortunate. I've had amazing clients.
This is one of the wealthiest places in the world. It's where all the rich and famous come out to, but there's a real local scene out here, true roots.
It's also given me access to the great donors that we've had for our charity. They can help to make sure that we look after the generation that's coming behind us.
We realized that most of our giving was to programs that somehow affected kids, and obviously their families are affected by whatever support we can give the kids as well.
One of the reasons for the teen clinic is that we are seeing an increase in anxiety and stress in our kids, and everyone is trying to figure that out. Between school and the testing and sports, and then you throw in social media, and then you throw in the East End, which is a luxury resort, right? Where like all of a sudden these kids from New York come in and everyone's like buzzing at, you know, this high pace. And the acupuncture just kind of like brings them down. To have that kind of impact on these little lives is the most amazing gift ever.
I'm raising 4 kids out here. My mother is a school teacher for 29 years. I chair a restoration of a 1902 life-saving station that just completed. I feel that we have to continue with the fabric of what the area was built upon. That's built upon a year-round community base.
As the organization grew and started hearing more about what the paddle does, really drew me to Paddlers for Humanity. It stays local. One of the charities is Catastrophic Fund.
6 years ago, June 17th, my husband, Dave, passed away. He contracted a virus called hantavirus, and it was just a freak thing, and it led to his untimely death very rapidly. At the time that was going on, we were approaching foreclosure on our home and bankruptcy. And I was at the time full-time mommying 3 young children. Paddlers was pivotal in not only donating money to our family at the time, they handled that whole situation for us. There's a very magical thing that goes on out here community-wise. I lived in Montauk for a long time. Now I've been in Sag Harbor for 4 years. It's the same thing here. My parents are in East Hampton. My brother's in East Hampton. The uniqueness of the community lends itself to wanting to do things for others, I think. And I felt that in Montauk all the time. Paddlers is a huge part of that, for sure. This is Ryan. Hola, mi amor. This is number 4. You say hi? Hi.
What really drew me to Paddlers for Humanity is first, I had my wife check it out. She's been in charitable giving and corporate banking for a long time, so I know what good looks like. The money raised, and does that go to administration fees and all that? No, the dollar I raise could go to somebody that we know in our community or a kid's family that my children go to school with, and that's what really drew me to Paddlers for Humanity.
They research, they look who needs what, and they pass it around. So it's not just for one entity. It's I kind of like that.
Raising money is an easier part of the process than having to choose who you give it to.
As far as to deciding what charities we go to, we have a meeting every year, or a couple of meetings every year.
I think with this proposal, I think we should tell them specifically what we want to.
We stepped away from them because we wanted to switch it up for 5 years.
Yeah.
And spoke to one of the mothers who said, this is the first time in my daughter's life that she felt good about herself.
Perfect. So just to let you guys know, we're at 92.
As a group, the board decides what we do with our money. We find out how much money we have, we look at all the different proposals that have come in, we analyze them, and then we pick and choose who's going to get what.
We're not running our own programs. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, but we're a pass-through organization. And all of these programs need funding. They don't run themselves for free.
To be a paddler, you need to raise a minimum of $1,500, and that will give you the passage to Block Island. That will give you the right to do the paddle. And I always consider that the hard part, people getting out there and raising the money.
I just put an announcement on Facebook once a month. I signed up for this in February, and it's August is when we're doing the paddle. Just once a month I said, hey, I'm gonna do this 18-mile paddle, and you get that reaction, are you crazy? And then little by little I achieved my goal. You have to get at least $1,500 contributed in order to participate.
I think what's appealing to people, one, the local charities, I think for a lot of people, they're very connected to the charities that we represent.
My kids have all attended Project Most, which is one of the recipients of the funds that we raise, and it's a great after-school program. My daughter, who's running around here somewhere in the background, my 7-year-old, she's still in it.
My kids go to Project Most. The stuff they come back with, they feel alive.
Project Most started roughly 15 years ago. Our after-school programs service roughly 350 children here in East Hampton. Our summer program is serving 80 students.
You know, Project Most, I was a little bit, all right, so is this babysitting? Like, what are we doing here?
We learn to cook, we learn to swim. It's not just babysitting.
Why not engage them in something more?
I wanted to go and see.
Excitement. The kids are really excited about learning. We may invite hip-hop dancers, science programs, environmental issues.
So we took the board, we went over to Project Most. I can tell you that it was pretty incredible. Nobody looked like they had to be there. They were so involved. Bracelet making and dancing. These kids don't want to be anywhere else.
We can make our own food and we can really express like our taste, I guess. And we have special visitors, like Inda Eaton. Oh yeah, she made a music video, and it's called Electric Guitar.
This winter break is cold as ice. I need some space to make new friends.
It was about like make new friends, think outside of the box, get out of limitations, get new limits.
So we found a beat.
These kids are being supervised, but doing what they love to do. It's an incredible program, and they end up being volunteers or they end up being counselors for this later. It's unbelievable.
I was in 2nd grade, and then I started going to Project Most. I'm a counselor with the younger kids. They're 4 to 6 years old, and we teach them how to do math, learning how to ask politely, use manners, and learn how to share with other kids. My little sister came into the program, so I wanted to be with her.
You know, basically for us, it's an enormous opportunity to have people with income levels that they do have who are coming out here, and just one person could make a huge difference.
It is just as important for the local community to give back to the program, because our children here are the ones who will be the future of this community. It's a great relationship between Project Most and Paddlers. We're so thankful to them. Children, they're happy. They're engaging, they're energetic. They make you feel young. There's still an innocence to them. They still love you and hug you and appreciate you for doing good things for them. And I think that just makes me feel that I'm in the right place.
It's almost as trying mentally as it is physically, but just being on your feet for that 6+ hours, you know, it's a little bit trying.
My trainer wanted me to do it, so I was like, yeah, why not?
You know, where Ed excels is he makes you feel like you can do anything. It's not for everybody. You can travel the world. You probably will not meet outside of this group of people anybody that's ever done, you know, an open ocean paddle for that long.
Big open water. My response, I was a little nervous. It was definitely a challenge, not just for your physicality, but for Mother Nature. There's so many different variables out there that you had to have a little bit of a ripple in your belly.
Basically, I've never really paddled for that, I mean, of course, for that long, 18 miles, especially in open ocean.
I asked a couple people and they said it's like really thick. That's all they kept saying. So like I'm picturing that in my head, like really thick ocean.
Like hard to paddle?
Yeah, like thick water. Like
That fear of just the unknown. You have just that, the idea of conquering something that they don't know how to even grasp what the enormity is. And my philosophical approach is to try to work on just having people work within their limits and maybe just a little bit beyond. I've heard about paddlers for a while. I train with Ed Cashin. I'm also buddies with Tom O'Donoghue. Tommy had talked to me about it, about participating. The opportunity to be on a board in nature, on the water, it's very reflective. There's something very grounding and meditative about it. What kept me back from doing it or thinking about it was actually my huge fear of sharks. I hope these are the only sharks I'm going to see in the near future, so yeah, ready. I'm glad to kind of come down here and see them and appreciate them. I just don't think we're going by shark. You know, I'm the realist of like heart disease, cancer, car accident. It's all about me, right? I'm like paddling and I'm like, they're looking for me, so they're not gonna be looking for me, I hope. How close to it? You can have great jobs, you can make a lot of money, you can do all these big things, but at the end of the day, it's about helping others, and especially helping in our community. It's not just one organization that paddlers give money to, it's a whole lot of different groups and clubs, and they reach a lot of different kids. So I think it's an amazing mission that they have. We don't monetarily benefit from this paddle. We benefit through our emotional sense and through the people that we met, the bonds that we've created, and that's what's always been the most important thing for us. When we set up our funding for each proposal, we look at a few different dynamics. We look at action that needs to be taken, children that are already at risk. And these children, we try to do our best to set up with the Family Service League. We try to identify these children and get the children help.
I got tired of commuting from New Jersey and working in New York at dead-end desk jobs. I'm going to come out to Montauk and do something completely different. To me, Montauk is where the magic happens.
My name is Robin Berger Gaston. I'm with Family Service League. We're a human service agency. We've actually been around since 1926, which is a nice long history. Today we're in our East Hampton clinic where we work with children and adults with different emotional disorders.
When I moved out here, I didn't really know a lot of people. I just felt really separate, like an outsider just looking in.
I think what happens in Montauk, a lot of the younger people and older people feel isolated from the rest of the world. They love where they live, but they don't always feel very connected.
A lot of negative thoughts can come up where I'm being so judgmental and harsh on myself, harsher than I was ever taught to.
I see people struggling sometimes with depression, anxiety. We've seen people with substance abuse disorders.
When I draw, all of my emotions would go on the paper and I could just dump it there, whether it was fear, hatred, anger, stress.
There is help available, and there's hope, and people can recover from those kinds of illnesses.
I have to think of each thought like a cloud. I am the sky, and like those clouds that float by when the fog is low. Whatever thought it is, if it's negative, it's just a thought.
The Paddlers for Humanity supports our program that we called Community Behavioral Health Collaborative, where we're helping people and focusing on emotional well-being.
The public library, where I encourage people to color for relaxation, and they were looking for a new relaxing activity to do, and they really liked it.
When we have our different forums, it really facilitates relationships between people, which is so important.
Whatever I was drawing would start to reveal itself and turn into something lovely. If it wasn't for paddlers, I would feel really lost and lonely. And I'm really grateful.
What's up, Grande?
What's up, Stein? It's a rough one.
It's a rough one.
About 10:30, so
still get a lot calmer.
Yeah, I need my power to get there. It's on the road. There's like poetry coming together for me in my life. And at a time where I think I had already worked building my business for about maybe 10 or 15 years. I own a surf and sport shop, and I felt like I really wanted to give something back too. I wanted to give something back to the surfing world, to local charities, and this really provided the opportunity for me to do that. The best way to prepare for a paddle like this is there's really only one way, and that's get on the water.
We're about to go on one of our training paddles. Obviously, paddleboarding in the ocean is a little bit different than some of the paddling that we do in the bay or ponds and lakes and rivers, so it's just a lot more movement.
So what happens in here, waves are coming straight in and they break on a shallow sandbar. It can break your board in half. It blows the board up in the air and then it comes down on your head. So board awareness is everything.
Sort of laying in bed and all you can think is, I'm going to be on a 12-foot thing for 20 miles in open ocean. It's not even sharks or, it's just the vastness, and it's humbling.
We hit this little spot where the Block Island Sound meets the ocean, and you get this convergence of two big bodies of water, and it goes like this.
I have the best time out there, but part of having the best time is like feeling prepared.
Take your board, roll off to the side, push the board out of the way, and dive under the wave. Just bail the board, but make sure there's no one behind you. You could kill someone, So you don't want to like jump in and be in this much water and break your ankle. Never, ever, ever try to hold the board from the middle of the board, ever. It'll rip your shoulder out of your socket. It could really be bad. Who wants to go out first?
I can go.
Woohoo! Great. Are you a lifeguard?
No.
Okay.
I wish. It would be helpful right now.
Feeling trained, feeling prepared, that's really what makes it a fantastic day.
I'm going to take you out one by one. I'm going to not have my board. I'm going to have maybe your board. I'm going to show you exactly what to do and how to get out safely.
There's just this impetus behind doing it for others and giving back to your community and believing so strongly in what we're paddling for. Any day you turn on the news and you see something horrible, at the root of it is a mental health issue. At the root of it is someone who could have just been taken aside or spent time with or given a mentor or allowed to, see a therapist or, be treated for addiction. And the next thing you know, that shooting or that, atrocity, it never would have happened. We're trying to create a supportive community for our youth. I mean, I'll keep going past Block Island, you know what I mean? And that really does drive everyone into the places that scare them. And that's where everything happens, right? Everything happens when you go to places that scare you.
We all dream. We're pregnant and we're going to have a child and they're going to be the prom queen or the football, quarterback. And when you're thrown a curveball, and it's not easy, all you want as a parent is for your child to be happy. The old statement is you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. Communities of practice is really just a concept, it's a framework. When there's a group of people that are interested in an issue and they agree to come together to try to improve outcomes. So one of the things we realized here on Long Island was that children, especially with disabilities, very often are excluded from after-school programs and recreational centers and things. We felt it was very important that every program was inclusive, which meant that it was not only for kids with disabilities and young adults, but it was also for typical peers and their siblings and their cousins and their families. We work with children that have autism, we work with children that have cerebral palsy, we work with children with vision impairment. It doesn't matter, and we work with children that just may be misbehaving that day. The Air and Speed Surf Camp in Montauk collaborates with us to do all the camps, and they provide the instructors.
When my child was recommended for an evaluation, I remember driving home thinking that I was really like the only person in America going through this. And for me, that, not understanding anything about this world, that was the loneliest time of my life. And so once I connected with other families who had been through this, who told me everything was gonna just be fine, that was so meaningful that for me it's just so important that no family ever feels like I did back then.
I see it as a civil rights issue. Now it's time to wake up and realize that people with disabilities have not been included.
Oh, and you want to go surf?
Yeah.
Yeah, you ready to get back out there? Go ahead.
Paddlers has funded the surf camps, and we've been able to run these a minimum of 4 every year. But also last year we had enough left over where we were able to run monthly programs at the YMCA. Everybody comes, they have a great time, we give them dinner, the kids are leaving in their pajamas. It's a great social event. To have someone or a group to be able to say, you know what, come hang out with us, because we love to have anyone and everyone. And our beach days, there's nothing like it.
Our mission is bettering the lives of children and really helping them with mental health issues. And you show children a complete circle, a complete world, how much more they get out of their lives. And we believe that builds that confidence from the inside out.
Things are looking good. The conditions have calmed down quite a bit. We came in with stronger winds than we thought in the morning. We left a little bit early on the tide, but now it's all cleaning up. The tide's starting to turn, wind's dropping out, seas are flattening a little bit. It's good.
You have people that, like, I'm gonna challenge myself. I did this in the lab, in the gym, and now I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna be physical, I'm gonna use this in real life situations for a really good reason.
A lot of physical obstacles, Lyme disease. It affected my central nervous system, so I couldn't walk. I lost 2 years of work. I'm a trainer. And this year, I'm healthy and strong and ready to take on the challenge. And I convinced my daughter and some of her friends to do it also.
Just having like a set thing, like, oh, we paddled like 18 miles. Like, that's just really cool to have with my mom.
I'm so proud of her.
20 years ago, I had a very rare form of pediatric bone cancer called Ewing sarcoma. I had a massive hip replacement. I was in the hospital for over 160 days in 1 calendar year. About 4 years ago, that hip replacement snapped in half, and that was the only year I missed. When you go and have such tribulations, you develop empathy, you always realize that all you have to do is keep moving forward. You know, the hope. You know, that's one thing, is paddle. You have to have hope. You have to keep moving. Just don't say, why me? Get over that quickly.
It was 30 years ago in this community that women started taking in other women who were fleeing from domestic violence. And now, instead of being taken in by private homes, we have a comprehensive service agency.
I love the retreat. I'm a big supporter of the retreat. They're really good at writing a proposal that is solid. It answers all of our questions.
And what we basically do is we help families change their lives and really address domestic violence.
When we were younger, of course, you look up to your father and like he's your hero. He's supposed to be your hero. He's your father. But as soon as we got older, we began to realize like he's not the hero we once thought he was going to be. He broke into our house. He wasn't living with us anymore. And my father had the intent to end my mother's life.
I've heard some of these kids' stories when they're uprooted from their community. Typically, they then bring them here for safety purposes.
The actual 911 call I made, when I had heard it when we were at trial for that incident, you could hear the screams.
There's 20,000 calls a day on the hotline to domestic violence centers nationwide. So It's a huge problem.
We spent a week away from our house. We were with family friends. It was just like a really heavy burden walking back into your home because it was just like, it was kind of broken. So he got 25 years.
That's a program from people who really need support. I mean, they are really in the depths.
The healing process really starts when you're able to like open up and speak about it. Here at the retreat, like I got really close to both of my counselors, and it just felt like they wanted to help me and that they were willing and able to. Like I've always said, they hold a very special place in my heart, and they always will.
A failure is, last year there was someone who was murdered in Riverhead. How can you get people to call us?
What I want to do, I want to go into law enforcement. So I want to be a lawyer, practicing law to help families just like us.
Much of their programming is for education. They go into the schools.
It's the prevention education that if you can get to the kids, that's our future.
We've got espressos! Very cold espressos!
Kimberly, just a question, do we have an extra paddle?
Roger, we do. We have 2 extra paddles and a kayak paddle if need be.
So paddlers can participate in the vessel that they're comfortable with. So it can be stand-up boards, kayaks, single, double, outrigger canoe, prone paddle boarding.
As long as you can push that thing through the water and keep up, you know, you can come across on a log if you like.
In no way, shape, or form is it a race. We discourage people from getting ahead of the pack. Of course, you always get 1 or 2 guys that jump out in front. I can name a couple, but I won't. Mike Bale. It's not a race. You know.
We've had people in the past feel a little bit seasick, so once in a while they'll take a ride in the jet ski to come up, take a little break on the boat.
About every 45 minutes, we'll take a break. We'll blow the horn. I'll let the jet skis know and the other boats know we're going to take a break. We bring cases and cases of Gatorade, water, energy bars, bananas.
Well, I've always kind of said my role is chief banana thrower.
Normally we try and have 4 support boats. I'll be the lead boat, 1 on either side, and always a boat on the back end, a sweep boat, to make sure nobody obviously gets left behind.
Safety is always our #1 issue, so one of the main things we try to do was head counts every half hour or so.
Once we get out into the open water, I try and let them spread out about a 1/4 mile, and when we reach that point, I'll call upon the jet skis to start pulling people up.
The date of the paddle is chosen by Dan Farnham. He chooses the date a year in advance, dependent on the tides.
When we launch, we catch the end of the flood tide. It pushes the group of paddlers up to the north for about an hour and a half, and then the outgoing tide comes right over to here. And we'll catch the incoming tide coming into the harbor. Leading up to the paddle can be pretty stressful for the whole group, especially for Fred and I, because we seem to worry about it a lot more than some of the other guys.
It's really the wind and the rip.
About 5 days out, we start watching the weather. Obviously, if there's any kind of tropical storm activity, you know that way in advance. Sometimes leading up to this paddle, I say I'll never do this again. And then at the end of the day, I say, wow, that was pretty cool. I can't wait till next year.
We don't monetarily benefit from this paddle. We benefit through our emotional sense and through the people that we met, the bonds that we've created. And that's what's always been the most important thing for us. When we set up our funding for each proposal, we try to fulfill these children's needs with what will keep them out of trouble, what will keep them positive, what will keep them confident.
The Bridgehampton School, the robotics program is another great one. These kids are given a chance to do things that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise without the money that we give them. So it's a good feeling.
The robotics program in Bridgehampton Schools
It's a tremendous esteem builder. They go to competitions, and just to see the excitement of these children, it's a light changer for some of them.
We started the robotics club with about 15 students. It was a very, very diverse group, and they were really super enthusiastic. It was a big surprise.
The robotics program has helped these kids by not only giving them 21st century skills in programming, development of ideas and concepts, leadership, fabrication, but the other thing it's done is it's really given them an outlet.
Robotics is where we build a robot after we're given a task, and we compete using that task with 50 other schools, and the top 10 from those schools go to St. Louis for the Nationals. We basically built these robots from scratch.
It made me want to be part of the robotics program, and that was an incredible thing for a guy that was the jock that did nothing like that in school.
Without Paddlers for Humanity, we wouldn't have been able to even start and run these programs. Where kids were just going home, maybe playing video games, or maybe getting into trouble outside of school. Now we're finding that kids are willing to stay here until late hours in the night, really dedicated towards working towards a common goal of building this robot to compete.
We had zero expectations because we had no idea what we were really doing. So we showed up at the competition, and all of a sudden, one of the local schools came to us and said, "You are in the top 8, and so that means you're going to the quarterfinals and you get to choose a team." And we were just over the moon. It was more than we could ever have imagined.
We competed, and we eventually got up to St. Louis, and then last year we were close, but we didn't quite make it. The competition's really hectic in a way, but it's fun. I love it.
Paddlers has been an integral part of making robotics work. They recognized that we were trying to get kids to behave better, and they wanted to support that. And their support gave kids the outlet that they needed to find a focus.
They expressed a very deep need for this positive feedback program.
PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention Systems.
Not so much always on the negative, not always just punishing the negative.
And basically it's a big umbrella program that we have at the school to positively reinforce good behaviors in students.
This is my 12th year in Lookout Colleges, and I'm really interested in game design, computer science, and music.
And I might do the paddle, but I'm not committing yet.
Gatorade? Banana?
It's a physical endurance. They really do think, okay, why am I here? My father died this year. I'm thinking of him right now. I just had a new birth. I'm thinking of my kid. So people do tap into what is meaningful for them in their lives. And then we hope that as many people as possible get to know the nonprofits, and I think this is going to be even more helpful for that.
One of my jobs is working at Yankee Stadium for the scoreboard, and one of my jobs is to shoot Joe Girardi's press conference before and after each home game. And he starts off every pre-game press conference wearing a t-shirt for a different charity. And I talked to Fred, and Fred said, "That's awesome, that'd be really great." So sure enough, Fred sent me a t-shirt, and then, about a month later.
Paddlers for Humanity is an all-volunteer organization based in East Hampton, New York, that works in the bettering of lives of children. Their emphasis is on supporting mental health programs, including early intervention and anti-bullying campaigns.
Joe signed the shirt, and I'm going to give it to Fred, and I think he might be able to auction off for some more funds for the children.
We have a lot of people that are really tied to the charities. They're really connected. They might have one of their children that is benefiting from what we give. My child's involved, but I need to help my child and more. If the message is clear, it resonates with people. They will respond to you.
At first, I think I just started wanting to do it just because of the personal goal for me to get there. And it really didn't mean much to me until we had this party at the Montauk beforehand. And at that party, the charities that Paddlers for Humanity donate to had people here speaking. And that's where it made a personal connection to me. I tear up very quickly for an emotional thing.
I just enjoy hanging out with the people that make the paddle. They're all designed and built a certain way. Something that you have to be inspired to do, and they're the type of people that you want to be around.
To see the results of the effort makes me extremely happy.
Well, in some ways, I feel like the paddlers get the same thing as the children out of this. They become more confident on the water. They're staying healthy, they're training for something. They are part of a community. They're giving back. They feel like they are part of something more than themselves.
Which it's an amazing thing. I was approached by a high school, East Hampton High School student who wanted to thank me because he knows I do the paddle. And we gave each student an allotted amount of money. They went to South Africa and participated in helping build a school there. So when he told me that, I was, really happy to know that the money's going towards causes like that.
Build On, which is an organization in Connecticut, but we were able to establish a local chapter here in the East Hampton School District so that kids from this area go to a developing country and actually build a school.
We're headed to southeastern Africa, to a smaller country called Malawi, and I'm really excited, partly because we're kind of just stepping into the unknown, but that's exciting to me.
We're looking at children to expand their horizons, to see that there's more than what's going on just here.
The itinerary is pretty advanced. I know it involves a plane to South Africa, and another smaller plane to Malawi.
Plane number 2.
And then on top of that, there will be a bus.
We've been to Nepal, Nicaragua, Senegal, and this year we'll be going to Malawi.
Just excited to see a new culture and just to learn about different ways that people go about their daily lives. And how they do without technology and all the excess that we have in America.
What the students get out of these trips is a sense of perspective.
It's really different from what we have here.
They realize that there are more important things in life than perhaps they had originally thought heading in.
We're going to be building a school. When we first got there, we go to live with a host family.
Their school is currently outside. So it'll be nice to have a roof when it's raining, and I know a lot of animals go throughout their class when they're teaching.
I also think that they get a sense of self-worth based on service.
A sense of kindness and awareness of other people's needs.
The experience for the kids is amazing.
When they do something like that at that age, that stays with them for life. They realize that they went down there and hands-on, they built a school for young children in a different country that really needed it.
It's a very cool partnership that we have here because we have Paddlers for Humanity helping us, we're helping Build On, and it seems to be this positivity multiplier.
And hopefully what they've learned too is to give on, to build on that through the years, and keep doing charity work.
But you're out in the middle of nowhere with all these other people with the same purpose, and it's surreal. You first start and you're excited, and then maybe 45 minutes into it, you're like, why did I sign up for this again? You know, you go through that tired moment, and then when the blood's pumping the oxygen where it needs to go, and then you're like, this is awesome. You know, throw me another banana.
I've thought it couldn't possibly get any better than this at this very moment. I mean, you're out in the middle of the ocean. It's gorgeous. It's, you know, when there's a clear sunny day and, you know, wonderful people around you, it's spectacular.
One of the coolest experiences I've ever had. It's just being in the open ocean with, you know, nothing but the sound of your board slapping in the water and, you know, the occasional conversation with somebody else paddling with you. It's a really neat experience, and I'm glad she's doing it this year with me.
It's an experience that you just feel like such a sense of accomplishment when you get through that jetty in Block Island. It's an amazing feeling to have.
Everybody gets to Block Island. We sit, enjoy the euphoria from the paddle itself, spend a little more time together before we take the journey home.
We're paddling back.
Yeah, I thought it was a great paddle. I think it was a little bit of everything. We had following seas, we had side chop.
It was a more challenging paddle than we've had in the past.
It was my first time, and it was brutal.
Someone described it as a washing machine for them anyway.
It's like a washing machine out there.
Remarkable group of people. I mean, we had 69 paddlers, and they are here, and they're finished, and they're happy, and they're in good spirits. We want people to have fun. We want people to be really, really proud in terms of their fundraising, which is going to affect a lot of people's lives. And then we wanted everyone to be safe, and I think we accomplished all of those. You know, it's really kind of a no-brainer in terms of the results are so satisfying. You know, as much as I love the actual day and the paddle itself, you know, we're not just doing this to have a fun paddle. There's a much bigger mission here, if you will.
Me as a founder, as a guy that has paddled every year, I've met hundreds of incredible people, paddlers. I've met hundreds of incredible children. I don't think we're ever going to finish what we started, but we're going to keep going forward and try to make children's lives better. I'm very proud of the paddle. What I see now, I see nothing that's going to slow us down or stop us.